Hello everyone, my name is Loko and welcome to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a top level game of Terran versus Terran. Spawning here in the right bottom side of Thunderbird and playing with the blue Terran SCVs. From China, we are looking inside of the main base of TIME. His opponent in the opposite corner playing with the red Terran SCVs. Still the player with the most earnings ever from tournament victories alone in SC2. Of course, that means we're looking inside of the main base of Maru. Alrighty, so Maru, absolute legend. He's been around for like a decade. Like literally, he's been around since the very beginning of StarCraft 2. And I believe right now he's like either 21 or 22 years old. It's pretty ridiculous. Like a lot of these top-level Korean guys, they have been around for quite some time, but most of them are a little bit older. Maru, though, he's always been very, very good at playing SC2, and he's one of those players that really grew up playing StarCraft. I can imagine, at the very least, that he spent the vast majority of his life at this point just simply practicing and playing these games, and obviously that means you become ridiculously good. I mean, another good example of someone who really grew up playing StarCraft 2 would be Raynor. I mean, Raynor right now, obviously, one of the very best players in the world, but he also very much so grew up with StarCraft 2. And I guess that's what really makes these top-level players, top-level players. Now, Time, though, he's certainly a player who I personally really admire. So, by the way, he's going for a double barracks opener. His opponent only going for a single wreck, so we'll see how much damage Time can pull off here. But Time, he is by far the best player that we've ever seen from China in StarCraft 2. He wins pretty much all of the tournaments over there, and there are some really big tournaments happening in China right now. He made it to the semifinals of WCS Montreal earlier in 2019. And, well, as of me making this video, he's actually 19 years old as well. So he's one of those players who I feel is improving ridiculously fast. I think he's one of the players who improved the most in 2019. And, yeah, I'm really curious to see what he's gonna look like in 2020 in particular. Maru certainly looked a little bit stronger about a year or so ago. For those of you unfamiliar, he won 4 GSL Code S's in a row. So that's 4 of the hardest tournaments in a... Like, it's insane. Like, honestly, that's never really been matched. Winning BlizzCon, yeah, that's obviously something you can do, and you basically play like a weekend tournament. But winning a GSL Code S requires months of preparation. Extremely difficult to pull off. Well, here we go. That SCV, very critical. You basically want to get the first hit in on either the Reaper, or obviously you want to try and see if you can take some damage on that SCV. Time, though, didn't end up losing the Reaper. He still managed to grip it up right now with the second one. Third one also going across the map, but it looks like that will be it, as he's already transitioning right now towards a factory. Here we go. He probably doesn't want to commit too much yet. Ooh, nice, a little bit of control there. Good little bit of micro. Love it. There you go. Get yourself another one of those Marines. It all comes down to the grenades, right? You can deal so much damage with it. Both players, though, just mostly skirmishing. They know it's going to be temporary anyway, but this is forcing right now Maru to get that Hellion out. Now, obviously, finishing a CC is absolutely massive. If we would have been able to kill that SCV, it actually would have been quite a bit worse here for Maru. But now with that Reaper out, or rather with the Hellion out, I don't think that this is going to do too much. Oh my god. Whew, the micro battles already. It's kind of funny, though, at this level of play. Like, say, for example, you're like a, I don't know, like a gold level player, right? You would literally die to these first 3, these first 3 Reapers. You would literally just take tremendous amount of damage, and Time would just win from there on out. There's all these little skill checks that happen at the highest level in SC2, where, like, if you slip up for even just a moment, and that's a great example of it right there, it's gonna be game over almost immediately without that big of a commitment. Obviously, the mid game in SC2 of Terran versus Terran is still very much so that Marine tank-based army. And while mech is pretty popular, we usually see it contained to just like a single Cyclone here initially. Ravens obviously also have made a big comeback in 2019, especially ever since they had ever since they got added the interference matrix. It's become a very powerful unit that you can utilize to disable your opponent's unit. So essentially, what will happen likely is that we will see a couple of those interference matrices coming up. Oh my god, look at this! Look at the foresight. Oh, I love it. There you go. That one's gone. Well, the cliff jumpers going back at it. No, but you can basically disable one of your opponent's siege tanks. So I think that's probably what we will see in this matchup right here as well. Now, we do find ourselves on Thunderbird. This map is really easy to defend 3 bases on. So that's probably why we are seeing quick 3 bases here. Even faster, though, for Time. He did go for a bit of a more aggressive opener. which obviously slows down his economy, but then he's transitioning towards the third base a little bit faster, trying to make up for that. This map does feature one big ramp that leads towards both the natural and then also the third base. There is a second entrance into the third base, other than, of course, flying units. But I gotta say, I like this this triple Reaper opener, right? Like, it's a nice little hit squad that you can utilize to get maximum damage in. Interestingly enough, though, Maru decided to send a couple of Marines towards the corners of the map to grab those watchtowers. You would say, especially if someone has, you know, has the Reaper squad out, that shouldn't really be the case. Maru, though, looking around for the Reapers, doesn't find them, even though they're hiding right here in that side blocker. Stimpak coming up on either side of the map. We do now also see the siege tanks in production. And especially like on this position right here, right? Like, you can defend such a big area of the map. You can essentially prevent your opponent from really pushing up here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to enter a little bit more of like a passive state in this game. Medevacs and Vikings, though, can soon be created, right? And that's really where we will usually see the big deviation. So Time is starting up 2 Medevacs right from the get-go. Wouldn't be surprised to see something similar happening here and just a little bit on the other side too. Although it's going to be a Viking first. He's already got a couple of them. The Vikings obviously are great when it comes to shutting down those Medivacs in particular. I know I say this every single TVT that I cast, but the reason why air dominance is so very critical is because you need to have vision so your siege tanks can shoot away at their maximum distance. So here we go. We do see all of the units now loaded up inside of these Medivacs. But you need to make sure that your siege tanks can shoot at their maximum range. So because of that, there's this weird chess game between the Marines and the siege tanks fighting each other, but then also the air armies. Because as soon as you have air dominance, not only can your siege tanks shoot away at the maximum distance, you can transition towards Liberators, and Liberators can force your opponent to unsiege tanks. So TVT, in my opinion, is very much so the matchup that closely relates to chess. Oh, really? Wow. Okay, he does see the one Raven over there. Here we go, though. Time is gonna commit. Bit of a weird angle he's coming in from, but that missile turret is not done just yet. This is actually not a moment where Maru can really respond to it either. These Ravens are going to be critical, though. He needs to try and get the interference matrices down. Here we go. Interference matrix actually, though, being used on the Ravens. Still, though, one of them already landed there on the siege tank, so I think that Maru should have more than enough to get rid of this. And even though that looked like a fight that was going to go pretty well there for the Terran player in blue, he's now forced to retreat on back home. Also losing that Raven there. Excellent defense for Maru. Even though he was caught off guard, he just simply had all of the tools at his disposal. If that interference matrix, that second interference matrix, would have landed a little bit faster on the second Raven, that fight could have looked very different. But Maru, calm and collected, defended that with ease. Well, he did hit a bit of a supply block. Huh, interesting. Don't usually see supply blocks anymore at this level of play. Not something, well, that lasted all too long. But it is always funny to point out. Alright. Now, Maru is known to be a player who can either be hyper aggressive or someone who can play the macro game of Terran better than anyone else. So it looks like in this specific game, he's opting to go for that second option. You can see he is going for the 4th command center, but he's playing very defensively. I know in a lot of the games where I feature him, and actually hold that thought, ooh, that was about to be a disaster there for Time. In a lot of the games where I feature him, I know I cast him a lot when he's going for like double or even triple barracks cheeses. He does that very regularly, especially against players who he deems are worse than him. So if you're worse than Maru and you will face him in like a, I don't know, like a best of 1 or something, be prepared to be, you know, cheesed. He doesn't really want to waste his time playing against players that he's just much better against, or much better at. So we'll see what he's gonna do in this one. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's just gonna be that super defensive style. Now I like this a lot better though for Time. I mean, he already secured the 4th base. Maru is going to try and do so right now, but this is actually an advantage here for Time. He knows that his army right now is moving down. He immediately stims forward with all of the Marines. Siege tanks are forced to now siege up on that high ground, but that was really all the damage he needed to do, right? Because now, all of a sudden, this red Terran player is contained inside of the own 3 bases. He needed to land that 4th command center. Excellent time right there for Time. I mean, not you know, intended. It's pretty difficult not to make constant puns where your name is literally Time. But anyways, he is going to be forcing his opponent up that ramp right now. And, well, look at the spread, right? Like, how are you going to move down? How are you going to fight this? Maru apparently has the answer. He's going to go for double Liberators right now. Like I said, he does have that air superiority. Because those medevacs obviously are, you know, not going to be able to shoot very far. But it's going to also, it's going to all take a little while, right? It's all going to take a little while. Scans are being utilized everywhere. He does now see that Vikings are coming up as well. But the 4th command center and even a 5th one are coming up already. Question is, though, is Time going to get out of here in time? Jeez. I don't want to make the puns, guys. Anyways, the Liberators are here. This is going to force the unsiege. And, well, it's going to slowly allow Maru right now to inch forward. Look at this matchup. It is so very different than the other ones in StarCraft, isn't it? Oh, I love it. I love casting TVT. It's a great matchup. Really don't like playing it very much because I suck at it. It's so difficult. Like, the thing is, if you go too far out onto the map, you will just simply die to drops. So Maru has to choose his poison very clearly. That's why he's leaving a couple of those tanks behind. Apparently, though, this is the moment that Time is waiting for. He's now coming in from every single angle. A lot of Marines on the right-hand side do get picked off immediately. Interference Matrix is being used on the siege tanks in blue. Maru, once again, picks his fights carefully, and he knows how to play it defensively. Excellent move there for Maru. Time was certainly behind there for, or certainly ahead there for a good couple of minutes, but that was the engagement that Maru was waiting for. Once again, calm and collected wins the race. It's such a stark contrast, though. Like, these kind of games make me wonder why Maru decides to play cheesy so very often. I know why it happens, right? Obviously, you don't want to be the player who's predictable in tournaments, but he does it so often. Like, he plays very cheesy. That yet when you see him play a game like this, it is just so clean, right? Like, you know, you want to learn how to play Terran versus Terran? Just play like Maru does in this game. He's not playing a risky strategy. Just play like Maru, guys. It's easy. Just play like Maru. Just play against the guy who's got the most, you know, tournament earnings in StarCraft 2 ever. No, but seriously, like, it's curious why he decides to play so aggressively so many times when he is excellent at just playing the defensive style instead. All right, now Time obviously not in a game-ending position here. Another thing that I really like about TVT, and that's not really something, by the way, here we go. We have StarCraft trivia. Pause the video, guys. What's this upgrade called? Anyways, we'll see it a little bit. It'll pop up on the right side of the screen. It starts with a C, okay? It starts with a C. Just so I can prove I got it right. Anyways, in Terran versus Terran, you can't actually necessarily win the game, even when you get an army advantage. Oftentimes, that's not the case in the other matchups, but because of the strength of, like, defensive siege tanks, it's very difficult to push an advantage. So yeah, Maru right now is maxed out. Yeah, he just won a really big fight, but can he really push right now for the victory? No, not quite. That's very different than compared, like, for example, like you know, ZVZ or you know, PvP. If you have a bigger army, just go and attack, right? Just attack move and you'll probably win. Like, if you have 10 more roaches than your opponent, yeah, good luck. You can't really lose at that point, right? Like, it doesn't really happen. Whereas in this matchup, you know, you can definitely play defensively just because of the strength of siege tanks and those flying units and whatnot in particular. Like, Marines are pretty disposable. Anyways, there we go, by the way. It started with a C. See, I was right. Corvid reactor. It's a nice little upgrade. Makes the Ravens a little bit better. So you can see Time right here, sharking around the map. Sending a couple of Vikings now. And this is really like the first time that Maru is moving across, right? Like, we haven't really seen him move out into the map very far yet. Now secured the 5th base as well. He's going heavy macro, taking absolutely zero risks. Now, this game was played during the WCS round of 16, so I'm not entirely sure what the specific situation of this game was. Ooh, all of the Marines stim. But he does decide to not commit as the siege tank siege up immediately. Maybe this was actually the moment where it was like 2-2 in the series, and Maru needed to win this one. I feel like normally he would play this a little bit more aggressively, but he's taking absolutely zero gambles. That's coming at its own risk, though, because right now Time has once again had the money and the macro to go back up. Whoa, that anti-armor missile, absolutely massive. Painting pretty much all of these Terran units in blue-orange. But still, Time doesn't really care. He's still going to siege up in a really powerful position, and this is going to be far enough forward so he can hit the first structures. Missile turrets taking some damage, but both players not really committing just yet. Okay, once again, anti-armor missile going down. It basically makes the units in orange right now take additional damage when the fight does happen. We see even a transition right now towards Battlecruisers. It's a very tense moment, actually. Oh, look at that. I love this. Maru decided to drop a couple of Marines right on top of siege tanks. That makes the friendly siege tanks shoot away at the Marines and therefore damage the friendly siege tanks as well. It's a little bit complicated. Once again, those scans so very critical as well. Ooh, massive hits though. A lot of those siege tanks right now from Maru are disabled, and this is not quite a great fight, right? Like, this is not where you want to engage if you are the player in red, although there is that planetary fortress. The planetary fortress is a beautiful anchor here. It's always a moment where you can fall back into it, because it's going to cost like 20 Marines to kill that thing. Once again, interference matrices do land. Question is, does Time want to commit? He could just move up the ramp, actually. I don't mind that decision very much. There's still that siege tank from earlier. A couple of siege tanks are actually set up right now, but here we go. He's sniping those starports. Now, at some point, you want to replace the Marines with starport units instead. So you don't need that many Marines anymore at this point in the game. He just casually kills one of those orbital commands as well. New starports will start up inside of the main base. Maru takes significant losses, but this is not really a group of units that Time can lose and then immediately regroup a little while later, right? Like, he's now going to commit to additional starport units, so he's going to go up to Battlecruisers here, which is really, really cool, but it's going to take a while. So now he's giving Maru a lot of time to basically build up his dream army once again as well. And that fight, I think it went, you know, it went okay there for Time. All things considered, I mean, both players have lost quite a bit. Time has lost more, and Maru is still mining a lot of resources too. Now, securing the base right over here. This is apparently the moment where Maru wants to commit, though. Trying to secure this command center right now is Time. Looks like it will be picked off as the Vikings are also utilized, but at the same time, we do see now the first Battlecruisers committing to this fight. Interference matrices once again being utilized there, grabbing a couple of those. Now Maru decides to jump across the map too with his own Battlecruisers, absolutely smashing a lot of those units. One of the Battlecruisers falls though, second one also starting to take critical damage. Those Vikings being utilized. And apparently now they are landed to kill 2 more siege tanks there. Right after that battle ends. Oh, the orbital command actually, it lived. Ooh, I thought that one was actually already down. Apparently this is the moment though where Maru decides to go for the base here in the center. Obviously, the more you expand towards the center, the more, I mean, he's seen this, right? Yeah, Time does see it. But the more like your main base becomes vulnerable, right? Because now there's certainly a chance to go into the main base as well for Time. If Time manages to land a bunch of Marines there, it's going to take a while for Maru to defend. Yeah, this is a little bit too ambitious, though. Maru forced to pick up and get him out of there. Dude. 5 Battlecruisers at once. The TVT meta right now, it's ridiculous. I love watching games like this. It's so good. Anyways, 5 Battlecruisers coming up here at once. We obviously see both players upgrading. Time actually a full upgrade ahead right now. And also going up to +3 building armor, or vehicle armor, rather. Only +2 there for Maru. Maru right now, though, after sitting back for like the first 15 minutes of this game, is starting to get a lot more aggressive. Trying to go after the base over here. Sending most of this flying army in that direction too. He needs to be careful though. Time is looking to intercept. He knows where that army is located. Command center does fall though, and right now this is a bit of a weird spot. Maru's army is actually split up. Yeah, he's ahead supply-wise, but if half his army can't fight, that's a massive issue. 2 Battlecruisers jump across the map. Maru immediately, Yamato guns down these missile turrets, and this now forces Time to go back home. Okay, that was a great solution there, right? Really, really like that. Now, I mean, he's sacrificing 2 Battlecruisers, but this now allows him to get a whole lot of kills. He got 2 missile turrets, 10 SCVs as well, and it allows him to regroup his main army. So that was a tactical decision there. That was a chess move, right? Like sacrificing part of his force to try and get other units back into safety so he can fight at a better spot. That sacrificial move is not something we very often see in StarCraft 2, but it's a great example of why I like TVT. Alright, once again. You see the siege tank sieging up. There's more mining right now, though, for the Terran player in red. A couple of Battlecruisers now utilized here as well. They can always jump backwards, right? So you can certainly use these offensively, too. It does now mean, though, that Time can get into a better position, right? Like, his air army here is looking very menacing. These Ravens can shut down those Battlecruisers too, so it's a bit of an awkward moment. Do you really want to jump them back, or do you just want to commit to the counter instead? Apparently right now, Time is like, okay, he's not coming back. Like, I expected him to jump home right now with these Battlecruisers, but it's not happening. If that's the case... Oh, you need to get out. You need to get out. If you get... Ooh, okay. If you get interference matrix, you can't also jump back home, right? So if you get interference matrix here on those Battlecruisers, they would be gone. And this is leading up to one big moment. Is that moment right here, right now? Apparently, Maru thinks it is. We do see the shutdowns immediately, though, on both sides. Those Ravens, absolutely worth their weight in gold. However, that interference matrix does come off cooldown after a little while, and the siege tanks on the left are firing once again. Still, though, the Battlecruisers being disabled for quite a little while. But I think that was a fight that once again went just a little bit there in favor of Maru. He's now reinforcing with more Battlecruisers. Quite a lot of BCs have actually already fallen. Keep in mind, though, that base over here was never retaken, right? That's only right now. Maru is happily mining however much he can. He's just simply macroing better past, like, the 15-minute mark. Like, these last 5 minutes have been, at the very least, like, economically speaking and macro-wise, much, much superior for Maru. I can imagine the majority of games, Time have already, like, he's already won them at this point, right? Like, this is a kind of practice that is not very easy to get. You're only going to get this kind of practice against other top-level Terran players, and Maru is playing that, like, that at this point in the game significantly better. Continuously still expanding all over the map, keeping track of, like, where his opponent has expanded as well, dealing damage whenever he can, and then making those tactical moves to get into a better position the longer this goes. Now, one Raven right there does fall out of the sky. Once again, dude, I love this. Look at that. We see the Battlecruisers once again sharking in. Time knows that he needs to defend the base on the right, because that one is pretty bruised up. And then a couple of Battlecruisers get used for the counterattack. 6 Ravens are coming up right now for Maru, by the way, going for a full-on switch. No more Battlecruisers, just going straight up into mass Raven. Obviously, they are extremely expensive. Time right now giving up the command center on the right. So he actually either wants to go for a counterattack or set up like a superior engagement. How many tanks do you have right now? 0. There's no tanks available. This is just Marines. Oh my god. Actually, all of the siege tanks, though, for Maru are also on siege. He's now boosting forward with a couple of medivacs, trying to get into a better spot. Needs to be careful. A lot of the tanks are easy to pick up as well. Oh, and Maru falls back once again to one of his anchor points, one of those planetary fortresses, after killing a planetary of his opponent. Oh, it's a slippery slope. One mistake and this game is over for either player. These 2 BCs have been a massive pain. Did they actually kill the orbital? I guess they, was it a planetary or an orbital? I actually don't know, but they certainly... Did you see the interference matrix flying? Oh, that was real close. Anyways, yeah, I think they ended up killing another base there. And this is starting to become a desperation move right now for Time, right? Like, he doesn't have a lot of money anymore. He's running out of time. Haha. No, but seriously, look at this. Look at the army right now for Maru. Okay, Time does decide to commit here. Immediately, the Battlecruisers jump forward for Maru as well. Siege tanks were disabled, but a lot of those units were painted in orange as well, and that means that they are taking additional damage. Those anti-armor missiles being so very helpful. Time, though, losing significantly more here than Maru. And while it would have been helpful, right? If say, for example, one player with the anti-armor missile paints in orange and another one like paints, I don't know, literally any other color, I think that would have been helpful for the legibility of that final engagement here. But there's no denying that Maru just simply had way more stuff. Excellent game there from the best Terran player in the world. I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. Special shout out to the Patreon supporters. Thank you guys very much for your support. Really, really do appreciate it. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile. And I'll see you once again in the next one.